Chapter 10. The Weight of the Machine. By dawn, the valley understood that the first assault had only been a measurement. Mist clung low along the ridges, turning the world beyond the timber barrier into a shifting veil of gray. Yet through that veil, shapes had risen during the night, taller than the ram, broader than the shield formations. Structures with deliberate angles and reinforced frames stood like skeletal beasts waiting to be clothed in armor. Raiden stood beside the tall warrior on the western rise, studying them in silence. He had learned the tribe's word for the enemy now. Roman. It moved through the defenders in low murmurs as they watched the forest edge. Raiden repeated it quietly, not as an echo, but as classification. The Romans had not withdrawn to regroup. They had withdrawn to build. As the mist thinned beneath growing light, details sharpened. Timber towers mounted on heavy wheels, shielded mantlets advancing ahead of work crews, rows of soldiers forming protective corridors while engineers labored within. It was not rage that drove them. It was procedure. A horn sounded. The tone was deeper than the previous night's signals, sustained longer. Raiden listened carefully, isolating pitch and rhythm. He did not know the words that followed, but he watched the effect. Formations shifted. The first siege tower rolled forward. Its height exceeded the valley's barrier by several body lengths. Platforms were visible near its upper section, shielded by layered hides soaked dark against flame. Archers would stand there, looking down. The tribe reacted instantly, voices rising, defenders scrambling to adjust positions along the wall. The tall warrior barked commands, redistributing archers toward elevated vantage points along the inner ridge. Raiden's mind raced through angles and trajectories. Height advantage would negate much of the valley's defensive cover. If the tower reached the barrier intact, Roman archers could clear the wall before infantry advanced. He scanned the structure's construction, searching for weakness. The wheels were reinforced. The forward face was layered. But the base? The ground, he said abruptly in the tribe's language, pointing toward the shallow depression before the barrier where soil remained damp from recent rain. The tall warrior followed his gesture. Soft? Raiden added, pressing his foot into the earth to demonstrate. Understanding flashed across the warrior's face. Orders rippled outward. Several defenders began digging shallow trenches in the tower's likely path, weakening the ground further. The Roman horn sounded again. Advance. The tower rolled forward under heavy shield cover, its movement steady but slow. Archers atop it began loosing arrows in descending arcs. The first volleys struck defenders along the wall, forcing them to duck behind timber or risk exposure. A tribesman near Raiden fell backward, an arrow lodged deep beneath his collarbone. The machine did not slow. Behind the tower, infantry advanced in disciplined ranks, shields interlocked. Raiden watched their spacing carefully. The front ranks moved at identical stride length. No individual variation. Every soldier adjusted instantly to maintain formation integrity. He felt a strange, distant admiration for the efficiency. Then he pushed it aside. The tower reached the damp depression. One wheel sank, only slightly at first. The forward momentum faltered as the structure tilted a fraction to the left. Shouts rose from within the Roman ranks as soldiers shifted to compensate. Another horn call. Different pitch. Adjustment. Workers rushed to stabilize the wheel with planks carried behind the formation. They were prepared for resistance. Raiden had expected that. He scanned again, searching deeper. The soaked hides protecting the tower's upper platform were dark with water, but water dried. And once dry, it would burn. He turned to the older man, struggling for the correct words. "Fire," he said, pointing upward, miming flame climbing. The older man understood immediately. Pitch-soaked bundles were prepared hastily behind the barrier. Archers dipped cloth-wrapped arrowheads into resin and set them alight. The Roman tower lurched forward again, freed from its momentary trap. "Now," Raiden urged. The flaming arrows arced high. The first struck the upper hides and slid off, sputtering. The second embedded along a seam. Smoke curled. The third caught where resin had pooled between lashings. Flame took hold. At first it was small, just a flicker licking upward along the tower's flank. Then the wind shifted. Fire climbed. Shouts erupted from within the structure. Roman soldiers scrambled along the platform, beating at flames with cloaks and shields. Another horn call. Urgent now. Infantry pressed forward to cover the faltering tower while water was hauled from behind the line. The tower continued moving, though slower, smoke trailing behind it in thick ribbons. It would reach the barrier within moments. Raiden felt the narrowing of time like physical pressure against his ribs. If it made contact, Roman soldiers would bridge directly onto the wall. He scanned for one more vulnerability. Then he saw it. The slope to the right of the barrier had been reinforced with stacked stone during the night. The stones were loose, intended as added height, but if dislodged at the right moment. He grabbed the tall warrior's arm and pulled him toward the stacked stones. Using gesture and urgent fragments of speech, he demonstrated pushing them downward toward the tower's tilted side. The warrior's eyes sharpened. He shouted. Half a dozen defenders rushed to the stone pile. The tower rolled within striking distance of the barrier, flames now spreading across its upper section. Roman archers continued firing despite smoke choking their position. "Push!" the tall warrior roared. The stones tumbled. First a few, then many. They cascaded down the slope in a crashing wave, slamming into the tower's exposed flank. The already weakened wheel shattered under the impact. The structure lurched violently, tilting beyond recovery. For a suspended heartbeat, it seemed to hesitate. Then gravity claimed it. The tower toppled sideways with a splintering roar, crushing several Roman soldiers beneath its weight and scattering formation integrity for the first time since the siege began. Flame engulfed its side fully as it struck earth. Smoke billowed high into the morning sky. The Roman line recoiled, pulling back to avoid the spreading fire. Horn signals cut sharply through the chaos, reorganizing units with relentless efficiency. Even in failure, they did not dissolve. They adapted. Raiden watched them withdraw to safe distance, already forming protective lines while engineers assessed the wreckage. The machine had been damaged, but not broken. He turned slowly, surveying the valley's defenders. They were breathing hard, faces streaked with soot and sweat. Some stared at the fallen tower in disbelief. Others simply prepared for the next command. The tall warrior looked at Raiden differently now. Not as stranger, not as mystery, as asset. Beyond the smoke, Roman forces were already repositioning. More timber frames waited in the tree line. More towers, more rams, more patience. Raiden felt the scale of it settle inside him. This was not an army that tired of failure. This was an empire that corrected it, and it would return, stronger. He lifted his gaze toward the distant mounted figure overseeing the field. Though separated by smoke and distance, he felt the weight of that unseen mind recalculating. The Romans had escalated. Next time, they would not underestimate the valley. And next time, they would begin asking a different question: who is guiding them? There is always a story to be told out here in the frontier, as long as there is someone to listen, like, and subscribe, and join us again for more.